Working abroad can feel like the ultimate adventure, a chance to experience new cultures, meet interesting people, and sometimes enjoy a lifestyle we could only dream of. But there is a dark side to this dream, and sometimes the pursuit of that perfect life abroad can push people over the edge. In this case, greed drove someone down a path that stunned both Japan and the Philippines. This is the tragic story of the Takahashi couple. On the afternoon of January 18, 2024, two bodies, wrapped tightly in sheets, were found under the floor of a home in Tokyo's Adachi ward. They were a couple in their 50s, and the discovery was made by none other than their eldest son, Ichiro. Returning from work, he immediately noticed something was off. There were faint, scattered blood stains on the floor. Ichiro called out for his parents, expecting to find them in their usual places. Around that time of day, he would typically hear his mother in the kitchen or find his parents chatting together in the living room. But on this day, the house was eerily silent and unusually dark. A sense of dread set in. Slipping on his indoor slippers, he spotted more bloodstains scattered in various spots throughout the house. Each step heightened his anxiety. He tried calling both of his parents' cell phones, but there was no response. Their phones were turned off. Desperate, Ichiro reached out to his father's workplace, only to learn that Norihiro, his father, hadn't shown up to work that day. When he checked with his sister, she too hadn't heard from their parents. Fearing the worst, he quickly dialed 110 to report his parents missing. As the police arrived on the scene, they noticed an eerie orderliness to the home. No signs of forced entry or ransacking were present, ruling out robbery as a likely motive. Despite combing the house for evidence, they found very little to work with. The phones, when traced, led back to the house itself. With a lack of clues or any obvious motive, police could only assume one possibility. The Takahashi couple had been kidnapped. Neighbors reported seeing Norihiro and his wife Kimie each leaving the house briefly on the day they vanished. Norihiro was last seen around 1 p.m., stepping out of the house, and just 30 minutes later, Kimie was also seen leaving, only to return shortly after. According to locals, the couple seemed to disappear into thin air around 4:30 p.m. On the afternoon of January 18th, police dogs, intently sniffing around a stain on the floor, led officers to uncover a chilling discovery. Underneath the blood-stained floorboards, officers found Norihiro and Kimie's lifeless bodies, tightly wrapped inside a bag. Norihiro, aged 55, had multiple wounds, as did Kimie, who was 52. The three-story house held grim signs of violence. Blood spatters around the floor and front door hinted at a struggle, though some stains seemed hastily wiped away. Naturally, the police's first interview was with Ichiro, their eldest son, and the one who found the initial bloodstains. Living with his parents for years, he stated he lost contact with them on January 16th after heading to work. But Ichiro's presence in the household raised more questions, especially when neighbors shared they overheard heated arguments between him and his father, centered around money. Ichiro had recently borrowed a large sum from Norihiro, which reportedly fueled tension. To complicate matters, the father and son had also jointly bought a property in Senju, Midoricho, valued at a staggering $500,000, sparking a legal gray area around ownership. The police suspected Ichiro may have lashed out in a money-related dispute, with Kimie as an unfortunate witness to the conflict. However, after a thorough investigation and a strong alibi corroborated by Ichiro's colleagues, he was cleared. To understand what might have led to the murder of the Takahashi couple, we need to take a closer look at their lives and who they were within the community. Despite the brutal nature of the crime, the Takahashis didn't seem like the kind of people to attract such violence. 2 years prior, they had settled in Adachi ward, quickly building a warm reputation among their neighbors. Kimie, the heart of the family, was known for her kindness and warmth. She was polite, reserved, and brought a cheerful, gentle presence to those around her. Norihiro, on the other hand, had a quieter but noticeable presence. With his embroidered jackets and a demeanor some described as Yankee, a term in Japan often linked to former gang affiliation or a tough past, he looked intimidating to those who didn't know him. Yet his personality told a different story. Norihiro was officially self-employed, though he actually managed a small members-only bar in Sumida Ward. This wasn't a flashy place, but rather a cozy, low-profile establishment for space around 20 patrons and a 5-seat counter. It had a small but dedicated clientele, many of whom traveled long distances just to enjoy Norihiro's hospitality. He was known to be caring with his customers, staying up late to keep company with those who missed their trains, ensuring they weren't alone until morning. He even had a taste for expensive cars, but remained humble, never boasting about his lifestyle. The Takahashis kept to themselves, led quiet lives, and avoided any trouble with others. Though Norihiro's bar work and appearance might have raised a few eyebrows, those close to the couple insisted they weren't involved in any disputes or dangerous dealings. For this reason, many dismissed the idea of a business-related dispute as the cause of the incident. On the second day of the investigation, just before discovering the bodies, detectives took another close look at the CCTV footage, hoping to spot anything that could break the case open. That's when they noticed something strange. After Ichiro left the house, 2 adults, masked and barely distinguishable, were seen entering. They stayed inside for hours, finally leaving in the afternoon, where one of them threw something into a nearby trash bin, a move that immediately drew suspicion. Investigators scoured the trash bin and found what had been discarded, a bag containing bloody clothes. They sent it to the forensics lab, and soon the results came back. The blood on the clothes matched that of Norihiro and Kimie. What initially appeared to be a kidnapping case quickly turned into a murder investigation. With the evidence mounting, detectives conducted a thorough search of the Takahashi home, excavating the garden and deploying police dogs to sniff out any remaining clues. And at around 6 p.m., that's when they stumbled upon a strange smell emanating from a hidden storage compartment under the floorboards. Inside was a bag, releasing a sickening stench. When opened, it revealed the bodies of Norihiro and Kimie, both showing multiple brutal stab wounds. Norihiro had suffered 10 stabs and Kimie 8, many aimed at vital organs. Their estimated time of death aligned with January 16th, the day Ichiro first noticed they were missing. The gruesome discovery shattered Ichiro, who had held on to hope that his parents were still alive. His emotions turned to rage as he learned of the horrific condition in which they were found. Police felt certain the masked figures captured on camera were linked to the murders. They circulated stills from the footage, hoping someone in the victim's circle might recognize the suspects. For a while, no one came forward. But when Ichiro was shown the footage, he recognized one of the figures almost immediately, Hazel Ann Baguisa Morales, his ex-girlfriend. This connection led detectives to Morales' apartment, which was only a 10-minute walk from the Takahashi residence. But by the time they arrived, she had already left, and none of her neighbors could say where she had gone. A friend of Morales later came forward, recounting a strange encounter with her on January 17th. He had seen her pacing anxiously in a convenience store, muttering, "Bandages, bandages," to herself. When he approached to say hello, she ignored him and hurried away. Undeterred, investigators followed Morales' trail, which eventually led them to a lodge in Fukushima. In the early hours of January 19th, Tokyo Metropolitan Police closed in on the lodge and arrested Hazel Ann Baguisa Morales. Morales was a Filipino who came to Japan for work. She arrived in Japan in November 2017, just 23 years old and eager to start a new chapter. She spoke fluent Japanese, and her looks matched many local beauty standards, which helped her land a job as a hostess in a bar catering to the Filipino community in Japan. These bars had become popular, hiring many foreign workers. However, as some foreigners misused tourist visas, Japan's government began tightening rules on foreign employment, especially in the nightlife industry, to curb illegal work. As a foreigner, Morales' options for work were limited, and so was her visa. But there was a way around these restrictions. Foreigners who marry Japanese citizens could work freely and extend their stay for up to 5 years. With this loophole in mind, Morales married the son of the bar owner, despite him already having a girlfriend. It was more of a practical arrangement than a romantic one, aimed at securing her stay. Morales was known for her charm and ability to attract attention. One story that circulated was about a regular customer who reportedly spent around $138,000 in a single night just to be near her. A former coworker remembered seeing this customer often seated beside her, with Morales pouring his drinks and chatting away. But everything changed when the man saw a wedding photo of Morales posted online. Feeling deceived, he confronted her, and she explained that the marriage was only for appearances. While this explanation seemed to appease him, he soon disappeared from the bar scene, with rumors swirling that he'd been arrested for fraud. Eventually, Morales' fake marriage was exposed, along with those of 25 other workers in similar arrangements. When the bar faced a financial crisis, Morales, who was pregnant, went to her husband for help. But instead of support, she was met with his anger and denial, claiming, "That's not my child." She left the bar soon after, and her child was never mentioned again. Later, Morales moved to another bar and took a day job as a nurse at a hospital, though she was still struggling financially due to her extravagant lifestyle. About 3 years before the Takahashi incident, she met Ichiro. Their interactions grew into a relationship, with Morales occasionally asking him for money to fund her lifestyle. He introduced her to his parents, who, by all accounts, thought well of her. At first, Ichiro's parents seemed to accept his relationship with Morales. She was beautiful, polite, and spoke fluent Japanese, making a good impression. But when talk of marriage came up, his mother Kimie voiced her opposition, though the exact reason was unclear. This ultimately led Ichiro to break things off with Morales, and after that, she disappeared from his life until January 16th, the day his parents were found dead. On that day, around noon, Ichiro was at work when he got a call from Morales. It was the first time he'd heard her voice since their breakup. Her voice was shaky as she asked him to come back to her and start over. He brushed it off, but at 5 p.m., she messaged him again with a single chilling line, "It's over." With Ichiro's identification of Morales from the CCTV footage, police were certain she was connected to the crime. But who was the second person caught on camera? After further investigation, they identified Morales' accomplice, a man named Brian Jefferson Lysing de la Cruz, a 34-year-old Filipino who had come to Japan at least twice, most recently under a temporary work visa for a technical trainee program in July of the previous year. De la Cruz was arrested on January 21st. When first questioned about him, Morales claimed not to know him and insisted she had no part in the murders, saying she had spent the day helping another friend search for an apartment. But under pressure, De la Cruz eventually cracked, confessing not only to knowing Morales, but also to their involvement in the incident. Surveillance footage showed De la Cruz buying 3 cans of beer at a convenience store around 10:20 p.m. on the day of the murders. He was wearing a jacket with fur around the hood, a mask, and appeared to have a hand injury with visible bandages. Morales and De la Cruz had known each other since her days in the Philippines. She had met up with him again not long after her breakup with Ichiro, and they often hung out together with De la Cruz's girlfriend. Morales frequently shared her financial troubles with De La Cruz, which likely played a role in his decision to assist her with her desperate plans. In the days leading up to the murders, Morales approached De La Cruz and revealed her chilling plan. We still don't know exactly why De La Cruz would risk everything, including his job, to help her carry it out, but ultimately he agreed. On January 16th, Morales and De La Cruz snuck into the Takahashi home unnoticed. Since Morales had been there several times with Ichiro, she knew the house's passcode and felt familiar enough with the space. Once inside, they hid in one of the rooms. It was then that Morales called Ichiro, asking him to come back to her, a last attempt perhaps, before putting her plan into action. Around 1 p.m., Norihiro stepped out briefly, returning just a few minutes later. Half an hour later, Kimie went outside, giving Morales and De La Cruz the opening to confront Norihiro alone. When Kimie returned and entered the living room, she too was attacked by Morales and De La Cruz, who brutally stabbed both parents, inflicting multiple wounds that ended their lives almost instantly. The two then attempted to clean up the crime scene, wiping away bloodstains with their own clothes, but in their hurry, they missed several spots. They wrapped the bodies in a bag and concealed them under the floor, attempting to hide their tracks. Casually tossing their bloody clothes into a nearby trash bin, they left the scene as though nothing had happened. As investigators continued their search for a motive, a Philippine embassy official suggested that one of the perpetrators seemed extremely emotionally disturbed. Japanese investigators initially focused on Morales' possible grudge or financial motives. Public theories about Morales' possible motive began circulating. Some believed she killed Ichiro's parents to prevent them from asking her to return money she had allegedly borrowed from Ichiro. Others thought it might have been because they opposed her relationship with him. With her reputation for a lavish lifestyle, the Takahashis may have seen her as an unsuitable partner for their son. This case sent shockwaves through both Japan and the Philippines, with people worrying it might strain diplomatic ties or influence how foreign workers are perceived in Japan. The case remains open. They are now facing new investigations for direct involvement in the murder itself. Japanese authorities are working with Philippine officials who are providing legal assistance. Further evidence, including CCTV footage and DNA matches, has strengthened the case, but the final charges and court proceedings are still pending. So as of now, Morales' and De La Cruz's fates are undecided. So what do you think was the motive behind all this? And why do you think De La Cruz went along with it? And as we close this heartbreaking story, we reflect on the lives of Norihiro and Kimie Takahashi. Their warmth and kindness left a lasting mark on those who knew them, and their tragic loss resonates deeply within their community and beyond. We extend our deepest condolences to their family, friends, and all who feel their absence. May their memory be honored, and may peace and justice bring comfort to their loved ones during this painful time. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.